My presentation is on the biology of electrical fishes. At the top left, you have the electric catfish, the Melaptorurus electricus, which is found in Africa. And to the right of that, we have the African knifefish, Gymnarchus niloticus. And the lower level, you have the electrical eel, probably the most famous electric fish. It's Electrophorus electricus. In the middle bottom, we have Peter's elephant-nosed fish. These are Mammarides. We've seen these before. They're probably the most diverse group of electrical fishes. And then finally, we have Torpedo marmorata, which is the marbled electrical ray. This is an image of the distribution of fish that utilize electricity. On the left here, you have fish that do not utilize it. So these are the vast majority of all living fishes. Most of the fish that we have looked at so far do not utilize electricity. In total, there are about 8,000 species or so that are electroreceptive. And this also includes electrogenic fish, fish that are able to create their own electricity. The electroreceptive fish include sharks and rays, as well as eels and electric catfishes. And over here, there are 13 families that are electrogenic. And you can categorize these into two different discharges. You have the wave species, which include a lot of the knifefish, and then pulse species, such as the Mammaridae and the electric eel. Next, we have an image from a 1995 book titled Electric Fishes, History and Behavior. This image contains the geographical location of most electrogenic fish. Most of them are located in South America and Africa. You also have a couple of marine species as well, such as Astroscopus, which is the electric stargazer, and Torpedo, you saw on the title slide, which is the electric ray. I really like this image because it shows where the electrical organs are located on each fish, which are highlighted in black. And the electric eel, you can see how long it is, and it's located pretty much throughout the whole body. And then another animal, such as the ray, is located kidney-shaped organs on either side of the head. This is a phylogenetic tree of electric fishes from a 2014 study. This study determined that there are a common group of transcription factors that may have led to the convergent evolution of the electric fish organs. And these organs have evolved independently 6 times from each other. And even Charles Darwin used electric fishes as a model of convergent evolution. Here we have the Electrophorus electricus, or the electric eel, probably a fish most of us are familiar with. It's known for its very high voltage shocks that can actually stun and deter predators such as the caiman or even horses. These fish are usually found in smaller streams and even stagnant floodplain pools in the Amazon. Up until recently, 2019 actually, there was a study done that proved that there are actually 3 species of the electric eel. This used mitochondrial and nuclear DNA from over 100 electric eel specimens to prove that there are actually 3 separate species. The Electrophorus varii, Electrophorus volti, and Electrophorus electricans. There's almost no morphological differences between these 3 species, but they do have their own different characteristics, such as Electrophorus volti. This holds the record for the largest discharge, which was over 800 volts. And the hypothesis is that since Electrophorus volti lives in areas where the water is less conductive, it evolved to produce a stronger discharge to scare off predators. Another fact about electric eels is that they actually have a vascular respiratory system. The gas exchange occurs in tissue at the buccal cavity, and this actually allows the electric eel to live in waters with low oxygen levels, such as the pools of water. This fish has three main electric organs that it utilizes to make an electrical discharge. As you can see, these electric organs cover most of the electrical eel's body. You have all the visceral organs up front by its head area. And the three electrical organs are the main electrical organ, the sax organ, and then the hunter's organ. They all have their different uses. The sax organ is mainly for navigating the murky waters that the eels live in. It produces lower voltage pulses when in comparison to the main organ and the hunter's organ, which are used to stun and deter predators and even catch prey. Electrocytes use sodium and potassium ion pumps located on their membrane to create a temporary potential gradient. What happens is the motor neurons deliver an impulse from the brain to the electrocytes, which are in close relation to axons. This causes the activation of acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter. Acetylcholine will diffuse across the synaptic cleft and into a receptor on the electrocyte's cell membrane, causing the ion channels to open. The innervated side of the electrocyte, or the side closest to the nerve, will become depolarized first. So as you can see now, the outside of one side of the cell will be negatively charged and the other side will be positively charged. These alternating charges can drive a current, and since there are thousands and upon thousands of electrocytes, sort of turns them into a battery in a way, and depending on how many electrocytes you have, it will create a larger current and allow you to shock or stun your predators even more. To make a shock strong enough so it will deter predators requires that all of the electrocytes synchronize together or turn on at the same time. If there is no synchronization, the electric organ discharge would be weak and long-lasting as in comparison to the short and powerful bursts that the electric eel generates. There are three modifications for this. So the neurons connected to electrocytes that are closer to the brain will take a longer path, and neurons connected to closer electrocytes are also thinner. They have less myelin, and less myelin will slow down the action potential and will turn on the electrocyte later in comparison to electrocytes that are farther away from the brain. And lastly, the axons have longer branches to electrocytes closer to the brain, and this is just another way to slow down the action potential reaching those electrocytes. And then finally, for this slide, we have an image of a scientist getting shocked by an electrical eel. He was just trying to showcase the eel's ability to jump out of the water. So as you can see, he has his hand in a separate container, so that the eel couldn't deliver a direct shock while under the water. It's thought that electric eels will do this to deliver a more direct shock. If they're under the water and they have an electric organ discharge, the water will dissipate the voltage, and as you can see from the top right, the charge goes straight up instead of slowly climbing, and this is due to the synchronization of the electrocytes. Fish that are able to generate electricity are divided into two broad categories. We saw the electric eel, which is considered a strongly electric fish because they're able to deliver enough voltage to stun and deter larger predators. while weakly electric fish that we see right here with the mammarids, and then also on the bottom we have a black ghost knifefish, which is also a pretty common weakly electric fish. Mammaridae are by far the most diverse group of electric generating fish. Out of the 350 or so species that generate their own electricity, 200 of those are mammarids. Now you may be wondering how species such as the mammarids are able to detect the electrical pulses that are sent out as a courtship signal, and this is through electroreception. Fish such as sharks and sturgeon are only electroreceptors, while the other fish we've looked at are also electrogenerators, but they can detect electricity as well. Fish are able to detect changes in frequency in the water through specialized receptors. There are two types, ampullary and tuberous. You will find the ampullary receptors on non-electrogenic fish, such as sharks. And yeah, these receptors are located around the snout and the chin, on the epithelial area. And inside these receptors, there's a glycoprotein-based substance, sort of like a goo. It's located along the canal. It's very conductive, and when a change in frequency enters this canal or the receptor, it will hit receptor cells that are right next to a nerve, and this nerve will send a signal to the brain. Tuberous receptors are similar. These are found on only electrogenic fish, and they are able to hear much higher frequencies. The ampullary receptor can only hear frequencies from up to 20 hertz. These receptors are mainly used for navigation and finding other fish species in the water. With these receptors, the fish can detect the Earth's magnetic field, and it can be used for migration events. And it helps finding fish under sand or around rocks that they otherwise wouldn't be able to find. This concludes my presentation on the biology of electric fishes. Thank you.